Affirmative consent is defined as the act of willingly and verbally agreeing to engage in specific sexual conduct. This is Antioch College's definition of the sexual offense prevention policy's affirmative consent. Affirmative consent means verbally asking and verbally giving or denying consent for all levels of sexual behavior. Non-consensual sexual behavior, verbal and physical sexual harassment are not tolerated at Antioch College. Affirmative consent must be obtained each and every time you engage in specific sexual conduct.
If you're still struggling with consent, just imagine instead of initiating sex, you're making them a cup of tea. You say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they go, "Oh my God, fuck yes, I would fucking love a cup of tea. Thank you." Then you know they want a cup of tea. If you say, "Hey, would you like a cup of tea?" And they're like, I'm not really sure. Then you could make them a cup of tea or not, but be aware they might not drink it. And if they don't drink it, then, and this is the important part, don't make them drink it. Just because you made it doesn't mean you are entitled to watch them drink it. And if they say no thank you, then don't make them tea at all. Just don't make them tea. Don't make them drink tea. Don't get annoyed at them for not wanting tea. They just don't want tea, okay? They might say, "Yes, please. That's kind of you." And then when the tea arrives, they actually don't want the tea at all. Sure, that's kind of annoying as you've gone to all the effort of making the tea, but they remain under no obligation to drink the tea. They did want tea, now they don't. Some people change their mind in the time that it takes to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk. And it's okay for people to change their mind. And you are still not entitled to watch them drink it. And if they're unconscious, don't make them tea. Unconscious people don't want tea. And they can't answer the question, "Do you want tea?" because they're unconscious. Okay, maybe they were conscious when you asked them if they wanted tea. And they said yes. But in the time it took you to boil the kettle, brew the tea, and add the milk, they are now unconscious. You should just put the tea down. Make sure the unconscious person is safe. And this is the important part again. Don't make them drink the tea. They said yes then, sure, but unconscious people don't want tea. If someone said yes to tea, started drinking it, and then passed out before they'd finished it, don't keep on pouring it down their throat. Take the tea away. Make sure they're safe, because unconscious people don't want tea. Trust me on this. If someone said yes to tea around your house last Saturday, that doesn't mean they want you to make them tea all the time. They don't want you to come around to their place unexpectedly and make them tea and force them to drink it going, "But you wanted tea last week." Or to wake up to find you pouring tea down their throat going, "But you wanted tea last night." But if you can understand how completely ludicrous it is to force people to have tea when they don't want tea, and you're able to understand when people don't want tea, then how hard is it to understand it when it comes to sex? Whether it's tea or sex, consent is everything. And on that note, I'm going to go make myself a cup of tea.
So now we're going to move forward and talk a little bit about Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972, which was passed into law and written and signed by President Nixon. Title IX is a federal law intended to end sex discrimination in all areas of education. It applies to non-discrimination based on sex and gender to all recipients of federal funds, both public and private. Under Title IX, schools must address all forms of sexual misconduct. Antioch College has a responsibility to respond promptly and effectively to reports of sexual violence and investigate reports of sexual assault in a timely and equitable manner. The federal statute of Title IX of the Education Amendments Act of 1972 reads, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." Now, although the statute is very broad, the federal government actually provides recommendations as well as as well as guidance that has the force of law and what institutions must abide by when there is a Title IX or a potential sex discrimination report. So Title IX, who's covered? Any and all students, faculty, and staff enrolled or employed in an educational program who are discriminated against on the basis of their sex. So that is anyone who is associated with an educational institution that receives any type of federal funding, from grants to financial aid, etc. Examples of sex discrimination include sexual harassment, sexual assault, sex and gender-based discrimination, gender identity discrimination, and pregnant and parenting students. So there are various ways on how to actually file a sexual misconduct or Title IX complaint. If you go directly to Antioch College's website under Campus Life, there's a sexual offense prevention policy page that you can click directly and create a report. You can report anonymously, or you can provide your contact information and the appropriate staff, generally it will be me, to reach out to you if there is a complaint. So this is how you complete a form on the website. You can also email the Title IX account at title9@antiochcollege.edu. Or you can give me a call at 937-319-0135, or you can stop by the office. My new location is in South Hall, room 316. Since most of us will be working remotely, the best way is to send reports electronically. So to talk a little bit about complainants and respondents' rights for anyone going through the process, everyone has the right to be treated with respect, to an investigation and appropriate resolution of all reports of discrimination or harassment, and to have a safe living and learning environment. If you are living on campus and you are facing some form of intimate partner violence and you don't feel safe in your current housing situation, you can request to have a room change. There are other ways that we can work with you to feel safe. You can request a no contact order, which is similar to the legal restraining order. Again, you can also have a support person of your choosing during any meeting attended with investigators. Generally, I am the main investigator for all sexual misconduct complaints, and you have the opportunity to a support person, such as a friend or a family member, to be with you every step of the way when you are going through this process. But also keep in mind that generally, if you choose a friend or family member, they will not be aware of the process. So we do have a list of individuals who are trained and understand what the process looks like, who can also serve as a support person for you. We also have the Family Violence Prevention Center and counseling services who can also serve as support people. If you are seeking someone as an advisor, we again have a list of individuals that you can choose from to help you throughout the process. Finally, you have the right to be informed of the outcome and the resolution of the complaint. So let's talk a little bit about responsible employees and confidential employees. A responsible employee, who may also be referred to as a mandated reporter, is any staff or faculty member who has the authority to redress a gender-based violence issue. Most employees on Antioch College are responsible employees. The only confidential employees that we have on our campus are the employees that have office space in Pennell House, which is the health services building. So our campus nurse, Pan, also our counseling services director, Nzinga Dalila, are both confidential employees. So a confidential employee is a school employee who's not required to report to the Title IX coordinator. And again, it includes campus mental health counselors, psychologists, health center employees, which includes nursing staff. Everyone else are responsible employees. And so if there is a time where there's information that you share with a peer or even a faculty member, a professor, a staff member who you may be close with, it is their responsibility to report that misconduct to my office. So please keep in mind that any information that is shared, you cannot request it to remain confidential unless you are going directly to the confidential employees. So next we're going to play just a quick clip on more information on what a responsible employee is.
Under Title IX, schools must publish a notice of non-discrimination, designate an employee to coordinate Title IX compliance, and adopt and publish grievance procedures that provide for a prompt and equitable resolution. There's a critical group on campus who ensure institutions are able to meet all the rights and options afforded under Title IX. They're known as responsible employees.
Responsible employees serve as a gateway, so often students or other members of the university or college community may disclose or tell a responsible employee that they were harassed or sexually assaulted. And so that person has an obligation to get that information to the Title IX coordinator.
What is a responsible employee's role under Title IX?
A good responsible employee makes sure that not only you know what variables as a responsible employee I have to reveal to the institution in my role, but also what are the resources on campus or at your school that are available to individuals who may have faced sexual violence or sexual misconduct.
If people don't understand their role, if they're not trained, if they're not sure what to do, chances are if a student goes through the process or employee goes through the process and has a bad experience, others are going to see that and they may not come forward.
Under Title IX, a responsible employee is any employee who has the authority to take action against sexual violence, or who has been given the duty of reporting incidents of sexual violence or misconduct to the Title IX coordinator, or who a student could reasonably believe has that authority.
What I often see with so many of the students that we work with is that they don't understand that they have different places they can go. They don't understand what their rights are. They don't understand what's best for them. I think what a responsible employee has an excellent opportunity to do is to encourage them to understand what their rights are.
If you have any doubts about whether you're a responsible employee, it's critical to ask your Title IX coordinator. If someone reports a violation to you, the best advice, be compassionate.
The way a responsible employee should act is just a basic human sort of wherewithal about how you are empathic. If we take a bureaucratic approach to it, then it becomes very distant. It becomes very cold. You should not be taking sides. You should not be guaranteeing outcomes in some way. You should be advocating. And at the same time, you should be empathic.
Some of the options that victims really are looking for are, should I have counseling? Should I have medical attention? Do I want to meet with law enforcement? Or do I need basically class or housing measures that would better help me feel more safe?
Remember, your job as a responsible employee is to take the information and report it to the Title IX coordinator.
So, delving further into confidentiality, I always like to inform people that the process is a confidential process, and when I am meeting with anyone who is going through the sexual misconduct process, all of the meetings are confidential, but involved parties are the ones that essentially control the process. We always encourage involved parties to not talk about it, but you control the process. If you feel compelled to speak to a friend, you can do that. But again, there are certain measures that could prohibit, certain outcomes. So just be mindful that it's critical to ensure that you are controlling the process. There's always going to be staff and faculty who may be aware of certain situations to assist your safety and other concerns. So again, anyone can receive confidential help from counseling services, but as a responsible employee, it's individual's responsibility to report the behavior or conduct that someone may encounter. And we try our best to ensure that there's confidentiality throughout the process, but there are certain outliers that will potentially allow certain individuals on campus to know certain things. So what does the investigative process look like? This is just a brief overview of what the process looks like. I receive complaints, and generally when I receive those complaints, I will reach out directly to the involved parties. I will meet with them individually and explain the process. I will provide resources, and if a formal complaint or an informal complaint is received, there is always going to be fact gathering where I am obtaining information. I will ask questions regarding what happened during the alleged complaint, and eventually there will be a report that is compiled. Individuals that are involved in the actual process will receive a copy of the report. If there are witnesses that are named, the investigators will interview those witnesses. Once the report is finalized and involved parties have had an opportunity to review and make potential comments, there is then a community standards board that is formed. There will be a date for the hearing board to take place, and a hearing board, a community standards board will be formed, and they will review the information, interview all involved parties, and make a determination. Once those determination letters go out, then there's sanctions or an outcome will be made. Again, as I stated earlier, there's always supportive measures such as academic accommodations, counseling services, disability services, safety planning, no contact orders, and on-campus living modifications. This is just a list of potential sanctions. So sometimes an outcome may warrant a warning or corrective action, such as additional education and training, potential probation, loss of privileges, or you may have to pay a fee. Or there might be, if this is an employee, potential demotion or termination. For students, suspension or expulsion. And again, this is just a brief list of potential sanctions. So now we're going to move on to Jeopardy. We're going to see how much we know. Today, are you ready to be my lucky contestant?
Yes. Can I do Title IX for 500?
Okay. What year was Title IX signed into law, and which U.S. president signed the bill into law?
I'm going to go with 1942. And then Richard Nixon. I think I'm Russ. Wait.
Yes.
Okay.
So you are part of the question, but I'm going to give it to you. So,
Okay.
Title IX of the Education Amendment Act was signed in
1972.
1972, and you're right, by President Richard Nixon.
I was just late 30 years.
So, you're
Early 30 years.
I'm sorry?
I said I was just early 30 years. We'll cut it out. I'll cut it out. Can I do SOPP for 500?
Yes. Okay, name 3 violations of the SOPP.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. Um, so the SOPP is all about the lack of affirmative consent. So
Yes.
it could be groping,
Okay.
when it advances via, when it advances via communication. That could even include unsolicited, like nude photos, and then
Okay.
also in the broader scheme, along with Title IX, it could be unwarranted sexual advances without affirmative consent again.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Those were all really great answers. So this is a list of some of the violations of SOPP. Sexually based gestures, sexually
I
based
think it's
touching.
important to note too.
Yeah.
Oh no, I sometimes I forget that. I think it's a brilliant policy, but even the failure to disclose STIs and other personal risk factors, I think
Yeah.
that's important because a lot of people will forget that too.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay. So we have two more categories: scenarios and miscellaneous.
Let's do scenarios for 500.
Okay. So Jane, a student, is a resident advisor on campus. She begins to receive unwanted advances by a resident hall coordinator. She tells them that she's not interested and reports them to the director of housing. Is this a Title IX issue?
Hmm. Underneath the current Title IX. Hmm. I'm going to say no, but I definitely think it's an SOPP violation.
Okay.
And it would definitely call for further reporting. I guess we'd have to see. I don't know. We'd also have to see what exactly happened. It could fall
Yeah.
underneath
So
both. But
right. So for this particular question, I said yes. This could be an issue that could fall under SOPP Title IX, as well as personnel human resources concern. But this would definitely be a violation for sure because it's unwanted, and we're going to say in this case sexual advances. And it could also be a violation of Antioch College's policy of staff faculty fraternizing with students.
right.
So it's definitely not great behavior to be exhibiting.
Right. And Ariella,
They need a lot-
can we kind of expound upon the fraternization policy? Just a segue. Like when they say fraternization, they don't mean that like you're gonna go to Tom Manley's house for like dinner or something like that
No,
with him
so
and
the
Suzanne. Like they mean.
so the non yes, I can elaborate on that. So the non-fraternization policy really is focused on any employee cannot be involved with a student, such as like in an intimate way. So you can't have an intimate relationship with a student as an employee. So a faculty or staff member.
And I definitely, yeah, and I think that's worth noting too. There's this uneven power dynamic between, well, there could be uneven power dynamic between faculty and staff. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And then the current students are, just people who attend Antioch.
Right. So you ready to finish out the
Thanks for
miscellaneous?
Yes. Yes.
For how much?
Oh, sorry. Can we do 500?
Yes. Okay. What happens if an educational institution is found to be in violation of Title IX? So this is something that we actually did not cover, but I'm sure my presentations before. So
yeah. So first of all, on top of it being like a huge liability issue, and open yourself up to like federal suits, not even civil suits. You can also lose your funding, like if you're not in compliance with Title IX. And
that's correct. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
Yes, huge. So a school that fails to comply with Title IX could be sued in a court of law, and a court could issue a monetary judgment against the school. The federal agency that oversees Title IX, the Office of Civil Rights, could also revoke a school's federal funding or implement a resolution agreement, which the agency would then monitor. So it's just really important for everyone to know, the entire community to know, that Title IX is compliance is a huge issue, and we all need to just be mindful that we have to ensure that we are creating a campus climate that is safe and inclusive. So these are just some resources. Some of them are on campus as well as off campus. There's a link here for safety app, and virtual safety planning. And we want to both thank you. Today, and I would like to thank you all for listening to our presentation. And if you have any questions, we look forward to, reaching out to you or speaking with you and seeing you all this quarter. So thank you.
Yeah.
Today, any final?
No, just really excited to meet everyone with given circumstances. So